Welcome back to the decks of Titanic for another Titanic tour. In the last video, we explored Scotland Road, as well as the mighty, reciprocating engine room of Titanic. In today's video, we'll be exploring the rest of Scotland Road, as well as a look into Titanic's turbine engine room, so stay tuned for that. Titanic had 3 engines, 2 reciprocating engines, and 1 turbine engine, which we'll be looking at today. The watertight door in front of us leads down to the engineer's quarters on F deck, as seen in these deck plans. There were rooms for a junior second engineer, third engineer, a senior second engineer, as well as a chief engineer. As we walk along, we can see down the rest of Scotland Road, looking aft toward the stern of the ship. This is where most of the third-class cabins were. The doors on our left take us into Titanic's turbine engine room. As we walk in, we see the massive changeover valves. And below us, the massive 16,000 horsepower turbine spinning at about 165 revolutions per minute. And as we look up, we see a black pipe going straight up to the 4th funnel. This pipe carried smoke up from the third-class galley. It was called a galley flue, as seen in this photo. The changeover valves provided leftover steam to either the turbine engine or, when manipulated, could provide steam to the condensers, which would turn the leftover steam into boiler feed water. This photo shows a better view of the system. As we look around, we see things like the big white condensers attached to the changeover valves, as well as gears powered by a small steam engine to do repairs on the turbine if needed. These gears powered a lift system that would lift the top half of the turbine so that engineers could make repairs. As we look down, we see thrust blocks attached to the propeller shafts. The thrust blocks took the propulsive force from the propeller shaft and transferred it to the hull of the ship instead of back to the engines, which could damage them. The Parsons low-pressure turbine weighed a massive 420 tons and was one of the largest cast iron turbine assemblies on a ship at the time. It drove the central propeller, while the reciprocating engines drove the 2-wing propellers. The low-pressure turbine would use the leftover steam from the reciprocating engines at 9 psi. After passing through the turbine, the steam had lost so much pressure that it was below atmospheric pressure. We can now see the emergency dynamos up on D deck. These were used as backup if the main dynamos weren't working, like after the ship broke apart. This photo shows the main dynamos in the room just aft of the turbine engine room. It also shows the control panels to control them. Titanic's turbine engine room was staffed by a team of 33 greasers who worked alongside the engineers to maintain and lubricate the machinery. As we walk back down to E deck, we see a storage room used to house tools, extra fans, and other items the engineers would have needed to keep the turbine engine running smooth. Here's another look at the room from another angle. Looking aft towards the stern, the reciprocating engine room is just behind us through the steel bulkhead. This photo shows a complete diagram of how this room works. Circulating pumps for pumping condensed steam back to the boilers, feed tanks for housing feed water, evaporators for making distilled water to be used to top up feed water, and how the changeover valves connect to the turbine and condensers. And that's pretty much the gist of the turbine engine room. Basically a massive fan using leftover steam pressure to power the central propeller, essentially squeezing every bit of usable power out of the steam, which made Titanic a very efficient ship for her time period. We'll now continue our tour down the rest of Scotland Road, heading aft toward the stern of the ship. The white door in front of us is called a gangway. It is where many of Titanic's third-class passengers would have boarded the ship in Southampton. Passengers arrived on special trains called boat trains. The third class would have boarded first, before first and second class, only after going through inspections for eye diseases to comply with U.S. immigration laws. As we head farther aft, we can see the floor changes color. This is what all of Titanic looked like underneath her lavish linoleum flooring. The red flooring is called Litosilo. It's a magnesium chloride-based cement. It created smooth, waterproof surfaces for the deck flooring. In most of the third-class spaces, it's exposed like in this section. We're now looking down number 5 hatch. This would have led down to the refrigerated cargo rooms for provisions on the aft end of the ship. Most of the cargo rooms on the stern were refrigerated for keeping food cool for long treks across the Atlantic. This is number 6 hold. It allowed fresh food to be lowered into the refrigerated spaces below on orlop deck. This is the third-class staircase. It was a very plainly decorated area with green and white linoleum flooring. The staircase started on C deck and went all the way down to G deck. It acted as the main stairwell for the third-class passengers. As we get closer toward the stern of the ship, the walls start to slant to fit the shape of the ship, which creates cabins that look like this. Shout out to RMS Titanic Design for that wonderful creation of a third-class cabin at the stern of the ship. Many of Titanic's third-class passengers would have been assigned cabins in this part of the ship. We're now on D deck, looking up at the top of the staircase on C deck. The top of the stairwell provided easy access to the third-class general room and third-class smoking room. We're now looking at the general room on the left and smoking room on the right. And this is where we'll end our Titanic tour. I hope you enjoyed. Like and subscribe for more Titanic tours. See you in the next one.